Hello, this is Mike, and today I'm going to make a quick review of this book, DM Yourself by Scutt. It's a book full of tips and some rules and other advice on how to run D&D 5e adventures solo, meaning you play as DM and player. So, what do we have here? You can see the index. The introduction, he talks about why to play solo and kind of his view on the topic. And he's like, why use D&D? He says because it's perfect for solo role playing, because there is an ability check for just everything. Well, I don't quite agree with that. I can play, and I do play solo with more narrative system, and if I want a more rules heavy system, I'll go with Pathfinder. That's even more structured than 5e. But well, I guess it's just a matter of opinion, as everything in this thing of playing solo. As the solo role playing guy says, whatever works for you, whatever is fun for you, well, you should go with that, right? Going for reasons why only player character. We have talked about that in other videos, but here's his opinion. Then over here he explains that there is currently two main ways to play solo. One is the books that are like choose your own adventure, and have never played that, but there is lots of them on the DM's Guild and other sources. He says he's recommending Paul Beimler 5e solo gamebook series, and then he says there's the using DM emulators like Mythic and the Solo Adventure Toolbox. He says here this adventure can feel more like creative exercises than playing. I cannot disagree with that. It's true that sometimes when you play solo in this way, you can just it's similar to writing, but as I think it's more like writing is like playing a song, and role playing is more like improvising a song, something like that. Even if you are going through an official adventure, or in this case, as he mentions, with total DM emulator. But I guess it's just a matter of opinion. What's really good about this book is that he has lots of examples and even rules to use 5e in solo. This is one of the main problems, increasing the PC's power. And you will see some advice on this book that is really good ideas. I recommend you to buy this book. It's it cost £4. I don't remember how much is that in dollars, but I paid in dollars. Anyways, he gives a bunch of advice about that, like starting at level 2, I heard, and I have done starting at level 3 for playing with one character instead of 4. And what else? Lots of other advice here. Then he has a bunch of tables to make these things more immersive and more random in the sense of how enemies and the world works, right? Because he says I think it seems that for most people it's hard to separate themselves, their players, from the world. He also put here the option of using a sidekick with the sidekick option for 5e, and lowering the adventure difficulty, and other advice for adapting the difficulty of a four players party to one. He has some advice here to make some lists of what your player will usually do. He said that it's really important to make your character background and stuff, because else it will just feel not like role playing. Again, I think this is a matter of taste. I personally go really into developing characters. Sometimes it's like a side game for me to just develop characters. But I understand also people who will just like to dungeon crawl without any background. Again, it's a matter of taste, opinion, or how you feel that day, right? I like to play more the role-playing side and building backgrounds and stories and everything. But from time to time, I just go and test a dungeon with just a random party, just created, just testing some classes and stuff. And I find both ways fun, even though I usually play more the story developing way. Avoiding spoilers. Again, there is some tips for doing that. I think that's another issue that solo role players stumble upon when they play official adventures. Here we have Immersion Table, that I think it's a really cool way to remind yourself to get these descriptions right. I think it's a good idea. Yeah, it goes in detail how you can describe and develop a scene from the point of view of one of your senses. Then he has some advice for exploration, using map and simulation of fog of war. And well, you should read this. He talks a little about Roll20, and I think it's a good tool to go through dungeons. Again, I play both Theater of Mind and and use Roll20 for miniatures and stuff. More examples of how to solve things that are not in the adventure, and this is for that. This all for D&D 5e. And in one part he talks about something that I find interesting, which is page 37, I think. Okay, it was page 33. Using hindsight. So he makes here a little rule that you can use. Instead, sometimes you make a decision based on box location description, but further reading you may discover something else about the room. So he makes a rule how to use some sort of hindsight to retcon. And he gives you 3 uses for long rest and stuff. I think, yeah, it's a good idea. It's a little still gives you some structure, right? But as I said in previous videos, you can just do whatever you want. If your character dies, you can just step back and play as long as it's fun for you, right? Personally, I prefer consequences, and when characters die, I usually keep them dead. Anyways, this is structured, so a rule that you can take. As I said, lots of good, interesting ideas and advice in this book. Here, page 37, again, how to balance the official adventures, or written adventures, in this case by scaling enemies. You have some advice, like no double damage and crit. I prefer to have crits because it makes things more dramatic, but it depends on the kind of game or how you like to play. So I said whatever is fun for you, right? Combat and enemy behavior. If you have trouble separating that, there is some rules and tips here in this book. Some words about towns and NPCs. And that's pretty much it. A book full of interesting ideas, good ideas, things that you can take and implement in your game. For the price of the PDF, which is £4, really good material, really concise, to the point. I like this kind of book that they go to the point and they, don't go around just trying to fill more space. Lots of value, I guess, for someone who solo role plays. Even if you don't use all of it, maybe you can take some for your game, some parts. And if you're starting solo role playing, I recommend you read this. Will help a lot. If you play 5e, you can jump to solo role playing by reading this little book. You can get this book by messaging the author. You can find him on Facebook, and he also has a printed version. And he said that this book will be available on RPG Drive-Thru in the future. And well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. And Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you soon, hopefully. Goodbye.